We like to look at our physical wellness a lot and measure it. But I have a question. How is your social wellness? Do you know how important community is to your holistic wellness goals? Or are you just too busy to make time for your social wellness and you think it's just about hanging out and having fun and having friends? As females, we are super relational. You know this to be true. And we have stress and anxiety, and this causes our cortisol to rise and for us to be in constant states of fight or flight. And chronic stress leads to chronic inflammation. And that leads to disease and injury, illness, weight gain, all the bad stuff. So, what is a good way to lower that stress and cortisol? Well, it's another hormone called OXYTOCIN. And how do we get this oxytocin? Well, I'm going to tell you, connection, which is community. Connection is being in community that encourages, brings intimacy, accountability, happiness, excitement, joy, peace. Are you in a community like this? Do you have a community like this around you that you might not be participating in because you don't have enough time? One place I know you can find a community just like this is in the 21-day holistic challenge. Not only will you work on your wellness goals, create consistent habits, learn tools, tips, but you will make new friends that will be instant community. This community will be the best type because they will be encouraging you to take courage, challenge your comfort zone, and pray for you. Join the 21-day holistic challenge today. Actually, like right now. I want you to pause this episode, find the link in the show notes, click on it, sign up right now. Because we start September 4th, right after Labor Day. We are going to get going and start on an amazing, incredible 21 days. I want you to make time for you, your wellness, and what better way to do that than in a community like this. And when I hear you say and come back at me with, I don't have time, then do it in a community because they will hold you accountable to showing up for your wellness goals, for yourself in this busy season. You still have to show up for you. You cannot put you on hold throughout this whole season, okay? Go right now to theshanwright.com/challenge, or again, pause, go in the show notes, click on the link, and sign up. I cannot wait to see you in the challenge. And my guest today has an amazing story of community and a word for you when it comes to community, a life lesson that she learned, and she wants to pass it on to you. Now, this guest is super special because she doesn't usually share publicly, but I was asking her to come on the show, and she realized she cannot not tell of God's goodness because this story is a miraculous story that he is writing in her family. And I had to split it up into 2 episodes because of time, and you are going to want to hear both. So make sure after you listen to this, you come back on Tuesday for episode 2 that has to do with this. Actually, it's also going to be episode 100, woohoo, on the Holistic Moms podcast. And another caveat is the audio is not great. I tried my best to edit it the best that I can and with all the tools that I know, but it's not great. So I'm so sorry about that, but it is so worth it. Just, listen in the best that you can. And I know you are going to be extremely blessed by it. So Christy Henry is a wife of a church planner and pastor, artist, social media influencer, and terminal brain cancer patient Matt Henry. She's a homeschooling, bio, and adoptive mom of 6 kids, ages 7 through 14, a full-time missionary for Jesus in the Southern California beach town of Imperial Beach, and on the road with the schoolie community. That means she has a bus that is in a house, like made into a house. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So get ready to be blessed to pieces with my conversation with my friend, Christy. Hey mama, are you stressed by the lack of time in the day to do all the things? Are you feeling disconnected from God, your husband, and even your kids because patience and presence seem out of reach? Do you want a healthier body, mind, spirit, and home, but overwhelmed in where to start? Hey, I'm Shan Wright, daughter of the king, wife, mom to 4, RN, wellness coach, and I know very well what it feels like to want to live well, but about to lose it with my very blessed full life. After realizing I can't pour from an empty cup, I tracked my way to whole body wellness and so much peace. If you are ready to cancel the stressed out life, learn tactical, intentional strategies as a mom wearing many hats, find more peace, confidence, and joy raising kingdom kids, then listen in. Come on, mama, together we got this. Really, God's got this. So go heat up that coffee again and turn your listening ears on. Let's chat. I am so excited to share with you another testimony on the show today. I first heard this amazing testimony in the works last summer before I even had a podcast. And I didn't even know what my show would be about or when I would even have one. But no matter what it would be about, I knew I had to share this story on it. And so I am so grateful that this amazing woman has decided to come on today and share this story. So Christy, thank you so much for coming. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Yes, I'm so excited. Okay, so first, so the listeners get to know you a little bit. Please just share some fun 3 random things that you're loving right now. It can be anything.
Let's see. So my second oldest son and I just completed a triathlon together. So 3 makes me think of running, biking, and swimming. He and I trained together for a year and completed our first triathlon together. It was my 5th triathlon in the Bay in
Wow.
San Diego. We live out in San Diego, so we love our beach town, Imperial Beach. Let's see. I love being outside, being a part of nature, seeing God's creation, and I love being a homeschool mom. I homeschool our 6 kids, ages 7 through 14. And I really just enjoy getting to spend the day-to-day ins and outs with them and disciple them that way through life on life, all day, every day. It's one of my favorites. We're on a school bus adventure right now too. And so I enjoy getting to see God's beautiful creation across the country and the school bus that my husband converted and that we travel in from time to time.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you have such the interesting life, and we could talk about so many things. But I did see your video of you and one of your kids doing the triathlon. I got emotional watching it. I always get emotional when I see people cross the finish line. Um,
A lot
but
of sweat and tears that goes into that, right?
Oh, of course. And the fact that he did it, and I was just like, and I've never done one. And I was like, well, shoot, I can do this. And it
Absolutely.
just inspired me. Um,
Yeah.
and then, yes, I have already told the listeners a little bit about you, but let's just point out again that your husband converted a school bus into a home, and you guys travel, and you lived in it for how many months last year?
We lived in it for a full year,
A full year.
365 days to the day. Yep.
Wow. Okay. So yes, your schoolie is amazing. And
Thank you.
also I will say I bet you are the best homeschool mom. So
I don't know about that. I think like all homeschool moms, we have our days, but I
yeah,
do
yeah, but
enjoy
I'm
it.
sure you yeah, I can see that you would be so good at that.
You're sweet. Thank you.
Okay, so I got to spend some time with your family this summer, and I love you all. There's 8 of you, and
Hmm.
at camp, we got to spend some time together, and that was super fun. I got to spend extra time with 4 of your boys, as they were the best little buddies to my boys. It was so cute.
They had a blast with their kiddos, so it was great.
Yeah, they're so cute. But boy, do you have a story that I believe God wants you to share with the world? And I know you're not typically the speaker, and your husband's like on socials, and he shares his story in real time on Instagram, and it's his health story, a lot of it to share. But he has told me that you are the real true hero in this story, other than God, of course. And so being that you're a mom and this is a mom show, I would love for you to share with our audience your side of the story. And I know there's a lot here and there's a ton of detail. So just share what God has on your heart to share and go as far back as you want. But we just love to hear, Christy's side of the story.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So most of you listening, I'm sure, have no idea who I am and have probably never followed my husband online or any of that kind of stuff. So I'll take you back and you can see what the Lord has done, what the Lord has done in our lives, and hopefully it will encourage you in your walk with Him and in your journey as a mom, because it's a journey for all of us. You know, I think when they hand us those babies in the hospital and say, "Here you go, take them home," and you're like, "Oh, they're mine now. Oh no." So we all have moments of confidence and moments of uncertainty. But so our story, brief history, Matt and I, my husband, we were high school sweethearts. We started dating in high school, dated all through college, got married after college graduation, and moved from Northern Arizona University, where we had graduated college, out to San Diego. My husband had a restaurant management degree and I had a teaching degree. So we got settled in our careers, settled in the church, and started to build community and life. It was about a year and a half after that the Lord called my husband out of his career and into full-time ministry. And I followed shortly thereafter and helped him out at the church. The church that we were working at asked us to move about 40 minutes away and plant a new church in a community called Imperial Beach, which at that time, demographic studies said 95% of people in that community did not attend church on any given weekend. And it's a 4 square mile community of about 30,000 people. So a lot of people who needed the Lord. And so we prayed and fasted about it and really decided that was the Lord's call for us. And about that time, we had our first son. So we planted a church in Imperial Beach, had our first baby. We had a baby church and a whole bunch of new baby believers that, and just built our lives there. We had our second son a year and a half later and started pursuing our foster license. It had always been a dream of ours to foster through the county foster system. Just when we heard about the need and considered the heartache of children who didn't have consistent people in their lives to love them and provide stability and tell them that they were made in the image of God. We really had a heart to do something about that. So we started pursuing that and continued leading in the church. Fast forward a few more years, and we had 2 foster boys in our home. We had our 2 biological boys who were just a couple of years older, and we had another daughter, or a daughter as well, another baby who had been born along the way. So there were 5 kiddos. The oldest was 6. I got pregnant again, and we had another daughter on the way. And so our oldest was 6. We had a 4-year-old biological son, a 4-year-old foster son, a 3-year-old foster son, a 1-year-old little baby girl, and another baby on the way. Yeah, so it was a full house, and people asked all the time, "How do you do it?" And my answer always was, "I have an amazing husband. He is just there for me all the time." And we had such flexibility and teamwork in our lives in every area that, he just helped make it possible. And it was fun. I felt like we were running at 1,000 miles an hour, but enjoying every part of it, loving our church, loving our community, loving serving the Lord and loving getting to make a difference in some little kiddos' lives. So one morning, about 3 weeks before my due date, with our sixth baby, I went out for a run and
You
came
went for a
home.
run.
Oh yeah. Yes. I ran and surfed every day of all of my pregnancies.
Oh
So
my gosh.
yes,
Okay,
there's
that's
no
amazing.
need to
I
stop.
knew you
That
were
was
amazing, but seriously.
oh, you're hilarious. Yeah, I think it's what kept me sane. It was my
Yeah.
favorite time of the day. Go out and if you run fast enough, the toddlers can't catch you. I'm just kidding. Just
You're
kidding.
funny.
Seriously, I love coming home to them every day, but that was my hour of quiet in the morning. So
Yeah.
I go out and run. Came home from my run one day though, and my oldest two, my 4-year-old, my 6-year-old, met me at the door. And I said, Daddy's on the floor. And I told them, well, tell him to get up. It's time to have breakfast. He needs to go to work. And they said, no, he's been on the floor the whole time he's been gone. We can't get him up. Sure enough, came inside and he was unconscious on the floor. Woke him up. He was very disoriented. It took about 45 minutes to get him up, to get him to come to. By this time, the other 3 babies are awake and clamoring for breakfast, and of course not having a clue what's going on. But my oldest 2 told me the whole time you were gone, we just sat by Daddy's head and we just prayed for him. Yeah, so special that you can do that. And so my husband was on his way to one of his final work meetings. He was going to take 3 months off for paternity leave when our next baby was born, because our 2 foster boys were also scheduled for adoption. Oddly enough, on the same day that I was supposed to deliver our baby girl. But we were counting on due dates being wrong. That would be fine. But we thought in planning that Matt was going to take 3 months off so that we could really have time to settle in and adjust well in the new family that we were being given, going from 3 official kids to 6. And we really wanted to relish that gift from the Lord. Well, he, because of that, he went to his meeting that morning, presented to his supervisors everything that he needed to before his paternity leave. But when he came home that afternoon, he decided to drive himself over to urgent care and find out what had happened that morning. He did that. Urgent care sent him immediately over to the hospital, which decided to keep him overnight for further testing. And in the morning, he called me while I was still at home with all the little babies and let me know that they had found a tumor on his brain. And so what do you do when your world, rocks like that? What do you do when the floor seems to drop out from under you? And let me tell you that the next 1.5 years of our life would lend such strong testimony to the importance of being an active and plugged in member of a healthy church. I have never been more grateful for people than I was in that season. And it's not because we had a crisis and went and found a church and asked for help.
Yeah.
It's because we had built our lives upon the people of God. And when you do that and you share life together the way that we did with those people, you feel the arms of Jesus around you in time of crisis. We're the hands and feet of Jesus to each other. But you can't wait until there's a problem to go create that community in your life. It's just not how it works.
Right.
But the very moment that I got that phone call, the Lord sent a good friend over from my Bible study group. She just walked into my backyard and was able to carry me through the receiving of that news, encourage me through some really specific and special gifts from the Lord, and watch my kids while I processed for an hour and tried to figure out, okay, what are we going to do next over the next 2 years? So how that part of the story ends is Matt had brain surgery. A day and a half later, he came out of the surgery severely impaired with the emotional processing skills of a 2-year-old and the mental capacity of like a 4-year-old. And there was the tumor did turn out to be cancerous. It was untreatable. They told us that we could do some chemo and radiation, but it would only add 1 year to his life expectancy, and the chemo and radiation would be every week for a full year. So that wasn't much to offer, and that's all they had to offer. He came home, our adoption's finalized, our baby was born, and we were left in this whirlwind of what in the world do we do now? And what the Lord said is, I'm here. I'm here through my people. I don't think I cooked dinner for 2 years at that point. Somebody just brought it every day, and I didn't ask for it. I didn't coordinate it. Somebody else did that too. So many people came over and washed my laundry, paid my utility bills, swept my floors, took one of my kids to the zoo, drove them to birthday parties, came over and gave me massages in my living room. Anything that needed to be done in my life, somebody else did it sometime for me. And that was just Jesus. Just Jesus showing me like, hey, this is horrible and scary and too big, but it's not too big for me. And it's not too big for my body. So don't worry, I've got you. Yeah. So if you're not plugged in as part of a healthy, active church community, I strongly encourage you to do so. There might be people there who need you to be that for them. You might find yourself in a place where you have those kinds of needs one day. But even beyond the big and the catastrophic, God made us to live together. We have gifts that others don't, and others have gifts that we don't. And so we're made to carry each other. And it's such a beautiful thing to get to see and experience. So that was my first life takeaway, I guess.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Plug into the church. So carry that forward now several years. We were in this hard place for a long time. And I remember being about a year and a half in, kind of what our day-to-day life looked like was my husband needed continual care, continual supervision, just like a small child would, but he thought he was a grown-up. What they had removed from his brain when they did the surgery, they ended up just scooping out a large chunk of his brain, and there's a big hole in his head now. And what they removed was his receptive language skills, which meant he could talk to you, but he couldn't understand what you were saying back to him. His sensory processing skills, which meant that sounds and light and touches were scary to him. His brain, if he was outside and the neighbor started mowing the lawn, your brain tells you that's a lawnmower. His brain couldn't identify what that sound was. And so he immediately went into fight and flight terror and would shriek and run away, screaming, "What is that? What is that?" Because he didn't have sensory processing skills. And also meant that living in a home with 6 kids, 6 and under, didn't go very well because they make a lot of noise and bump into you and drop things and stuff. And every single one of those would send him shrieking and crying and cowering in the corner. So he spent all of his time out in the garage, just hanging out by himself. And I spent my days inside and trying to take the kids as many places as I could so that he could have some peace and quiet at home. He lost his short-term memory also. So anyone that he'd met in the last 7 years, he didn't know who they were anymore. Any time before that was still in there, but short-term memory. So all of the people that we had led in our church, all of the marriage and pastoral counseling that he did, all of the friendships we had made, those were all just gone. And he also ended up with some pretty severe PTSD because the seizure happened while he was on his way into work. And he'd been experiencing mini seizures for the previous year that were misdiagnosed as panic attacks from work stress, is what the doctor told him. When he had his seizure and his surgery, his brain associated church with poor health. And so anytime he heard worship music, heard scripture being read, drove past a church, his brain would flip into survival mode. Just like if you were, fighting in Vietnam and you have a jet, like you're firing a machine gun, that's your job. You come home and you're supposed to go back to work at your dad's jackhammer business. Like, that's not going to work for you, right? Because everything triggers memories. And so that's how his brain associated church.
Gotcha.
And and all things spiritual. So So we lived that reality for a while. And I remember getting to about a year and a half in and just feeling like I was at the end of myself, thinking, okay, I don't think there is anything beautiful left in my head and my heart, Lord. Like, I'm still doing the right things. As far as my faith goes, I felt like Peter, when Jesus questioned him, and said, Peter, many disciples have left me. Are you going to leave also? And Peter answered him, showing that he didn't understand, but still was seeking the Lord. He said, to whom would we go, Lord?
Mm-hmm.
You have the words of eternal life. And I felt like that's where I was at in my walk with the Lord. Like, I don't get this, Lord, and I don't like it, but where else am I going to go? You hold the keys to eternal life, and I know that to be true.
Mm-hmm.
So what else do I do? Didn't know, reading my Bible just made me want to cry. I found some solace in a few great books. I did a theological study of the book of Job and read some fantastic commentaries on the book of Job. I read some writings by Christian writers on grief and sorrow and loss, and found those comforting, but really was at the end of myself.
Now, what will Christy do that she's at the end of herself and doesn't know what else to do and cannot go on any longer like this with her 6 children and her husband that is ill? What is she going to do? Gotta come back next time to hear what happens next in this amazing, incredible, miraculous story. There, I gave it away a little bit. It is a miraculous story, but you have to find out, what does she do next? Okay, see you next time on Holistic Moms. Hey, Wellness Warrior, I pray that blessed you. And if so, it would bless me big if you would write a 5-star review and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Not only would this make me super happy, but it will allow for others to find this show too. Also, I love to chat over on Instagram, so make sure to take a screenshot, share to your Instagram stories, and tag me at @TheShanWright so I can see it and we can keep chatting and bring other moms to chat with us. Until we get to chat again, mama friend, may the Lord's face shine upon you and give you peace.